Call this Metropolitan meeting to order. We have roll call and we have quorum. The first item is vote and approval of the agenda. Move. Second. Moved and second. Any discussion of the agenda? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Agenda is approved. Our next item is the approval of the August meeting minutes. Move. Second. Moved and second. Any questions regarding the August meeting minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. Up next, consent and vote agenda. And as a reminder, since this is new to the MPO, if you have questions about the consent items, we can ask those after we have a motion in second. Motion. Second. Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the consent? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Consent is approved. We have anyone signed up for public comments? Do not, so we can move on to the report and vote on the governance assessment. We'll turn this over to Kat.
Good to see everybody today. We wanted to do a quick update with the Governance Insights report. If you recall where we left off last month with the work on the Governance Insights report, the report is done, the themes are identified, and the spot that we are at now is how we put what we learned from the report into action. And we had two ways that we could approach that. I could provide you a bunch of ideas that you could just take and run with, or you could help us develop the ideas as it makes sense for making sure the work that we design is effective for you as a governing body. There were priorities that were aligned for really supporting governance around strengthening committees, member engagement, and member satisfaction. And then some themes that we can focus on more related towards strategic planning around mission and vision for the organization, as well as purpose for the work. Some things that we've already worked on that are underway, thinking back to the executive committee. And if I pause for 1 second, in front of you, there is a worksheet. I'm calling it a worksheet loosely, but all of the description of the themes are defined in their entirety in front of you as they were placed in the report. So if you look at what the focus of the executive committee was, really understanding from our research, there was a desire from the MPO policy committee to really become more closely aligned with the executive committee. And so in the executive committee discussion on September 11th, they really talked about expectations. So how do we look at what our questions were that came from the report and strengthen our relationship between the executive committee and the policy committee? And so the focus of their discussion was expectations. So their work is moving forward. As you can see there, the action item that they developed is they're creating a new document and orientation program to help online new members effectively and really kind of set the stage for what it means to be a good member of the MPO policy committee. I'm not going to jump into that tonight because it's still something that the executive committee is working on. So still formulating that. There's work that the staff is doing to bring some ideas back to them and work we're going to do today. But then there's 3 other themes that we need your input on to make us effective in designing recommendations to bring back to you around project-based committees, member engagement, and then member satisfaction, which were really important to the policy committee through the study. This way. Okay, so what we want to do today is take 10 minutes because we appreciate wanting to have efficiency in the meeting, but also, again, want to have your input. And in front of you, I've got sticky notes. Everybody has a little pad of sticky notes. In working through all of the data from the report, these were the questions that really stood out for us as a starting point to be able to bring back good recommendations to best serve the policy committee. So what I would like to do is have you give these questions some quick thought. I know some of them may prompt a little bit of deeper thought or wanting to have deeper discussion, but we need some guardrails. We need some guideposts from all of you into how we shape the next step of our work. So I'd like you to take the next 10 minutes, use the sticky notes, take a look at the questions, which we'll walk through here in a second, to capture your thoughts. And then we're going to put those up around the room. We're not going to discuss those sticky notes today. What we will do after today is we will take all of the input, we'll compile it, and we'll bring back a working plan. So again, this is our attempt to get all of your input, but stay efficient in moving the process along. So does that make sense to everybody, what we're trying to accomplish today?
Cash, for those people participating online, is it okay if it's email?
So we have two options, yes. If they would like to drop their thoughts in the chat, I've got the questions up here on the screen, which we'll walk through. Or we can email the document and have folks submit it. So the questions that we'd like folks to lean into for the next 10 minutes. Thinking about the work that the executive committee is undertaking right now, like your insights as to, are there any aspects of your role as an MPO policy member that would be helpful to have clarification on? Any key points of the work where it would be helpful to learn more? So I know we have new members to the policy committee, we have seasoned members of the policy committee, but are there places where you'd like us to spend more time? And then any expectations you'd like to see the policy better about holding each other accountable for. For example, better about reviewing materials in advance of the meetings, attendance, etc. Any expectations you'd like from each other? The next two questions are around the project-based committees. There was great consensus about leveraging project-based committees to move the work of the MPO forward, but figuring out how to do that is the next step. So we'd like to know from you, what do you want to make sure we do well, and what do you want to make sure we avoid? So give us some input. So as we move that into the next steps, we have ideas from you as to how to be effective. Member engagement. If you recall, the focus around that was around how do we increase connectivity between the members. So I have one really easy question, and then I do have a harder question here. How do we increase opportunities for you to participate? And then are there ideas that you have about how we can address the dynamics sometimes around the competitiveness to strengthen our relationships? And then the last question around satisfaction, if you remember, so many of the survey results, we landed at neutral. Like we were asking questions about how folks felt about being part of the MPO, recognizing how we move things along. The response was neutral. So it was difficult to distinguish if folks were on the high end or just interested, I think is a good way to say it. So I shared with Dylan, it's the concept of, we want to make sure that we take the work to the next level. So the question then, what are the top 3 things you expect from the MPO as an organization? So I use the analogy of, how do we move from good to great? You're doing really, really good things, but how do we take it to the next level? So what are your expectations? So you have 7 questions. You have 10 minutes because Joe's got a restaurant to run. Okay.
Am I putting my answers on individual posts?
Yes, one sticky note per question.
Am I stating which question? Which? How are you gonna know?
If you want to number them, that would be great. I should have done that. I apologize. But then we have the flip charts up around the room that have the questions on them.
No, so I'll put it up.
Yep. So then you put the corresponding sticky note,
That's all I needed.
corresponding question. And the timer is going. You have until 4:20. And online folks, again, you can leverage chat where Gunnar is almost ready.
Comments, if you think it's something else, please. But, this was the government assessment and it was a report and vote, so I would entertain a motions on this receive and file. Move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the government assessment? And all, okay,
All right.
Opposed, same sign. All right, motion passed. Thank you. Up next, we have a report and vote on the human capital plan. Back over to Kat.
Okay. This is another one. The plan is in front of you. I know it is a massive document that came to you today. The thing that I will tell you is there isn't anything in the document you haven't already seen. It's just all packaged into the document. So to give a quick overview of the work, just starting, and I'm not going to go all the way back to the beginning because we've talked about the research, we've talked about the data sources, all of those key things. But the most recent work is following, kind of getting everything underway. We did work through the personnel committee. We had 2 meetings, picking up some of those critical findings that we came across along the way to really work through updating the job descriptions, updating the salary schedule, doing some corrections to the roles, and then drafting 2 versions of an amended work chart, one that could be implemented right away, and then thinking about the organization into the future, which is really what the human capital plan is all about. And then just as a note here, the personnel committee members, Joe Gatto, David Jones, Mike Jones, Dean O'Connor, and Len Murray helped us through that process. To walk through the human capital plan in front of you, I was just going to make a few notes where you can see where these key things are at.
Yes, real quick, there's not a copy for everyone, there's a couple copies on each table, so if you need more, I can print them. They were sent earlier today.
Okay.
There you go.
I'm just gonna jump ahead to the key things then. Where we really led this process, we're thinking about the core changes to ensure clarity. And again, that was around updating the job descriptions. Key things that we noticed through the process is the job descriptions hadn't been updated in a while. And so we had some roles that really could benefit from aligning their titles with their work in the job and their responsibilities. We removed some of the unnecessary planner positions from the salary schedule. Again, there were several layers of planner positions within the salary schedule, which really compressed the wage ranges. We consolidated the assistant leadership roles, giving us an ability to promote internal talent. And then we developed the alternative operational organizational charts. We really did that work first, because if we would have done the salary analysis first, which typically we would have done and had ready to go before July 1st, so it could have been adopted at that point, the schedule really would have been irrelevant at this point. So, so that's kind of the flow of having to do things a little bit differently than we had anticipated coming into the study. So just understanding the salary analysis, I just wanted to touch on these things again. Putting together the wage ranges, and all of that is based on job duties and not titles. So as you're going out and researching the wage ranges and what that comes into, there isn't just in the world of work, there isn't one title that just covers every single kind of job. So a lot of work goes into making sure we match up duties for an appropriate range wages. Depends on size, direct reports, years of experience. The MPO is a very unique organization because it is government, but also nonprofit. So it stretches a couple of different arenas. And then we leveraged peer schedules from Nebraska, Kansas, Florida, Ohio, local comparatives, the Department of Labor, and then pay scale data, which is a national resource that provides a lot of really great current data. So things that we have for your consideration today that we'll be asking for approval are the job descriptions, the salary wage schedule, the proposed work charts as well. So I wanted to take a minute to walk through these and showing what our research. What we are proposing is shifting the organization to the structure that you see here, having the administrative specialist, accounting specialist report to Dylan, and then creating a newer role, planning and public affairs manager, which would consolidate the assistant director role, the communications and public affairs manager role, and the planning manager role all together into one. And if we had names up there, that role would be Gunner. The second thing that we did is we consolidated the senior planner role and the principal planner role together into the senior planner role. And then the senior planners, associate planners, and the grants and project specialists would report to the planning and public affairs manager, and the interns then would report to the senior planners. Dylan, I don't know if you have any thoughts that you want to share.
Not necessarily. I think it's hopefully that makes kind of sense. And we had a lot of planning roles that just were never filled. So this helps us still provide upward mobility, but makes it a little more streamlined for an organization was.
I'm going to do one more clip and then I'll invite comments. So looking into the future, many years from now, where we would see the organization potentially shifting then is to create an opportunity then for having a planning manager and then an accounting manager, a senior level finance leader. This is something that really came from all of the work we did with the peer organizations about the importance of having a right hand and a left hand, particularly in that finance arena. And then you can see how operations would then shift in having the administrative specialists reporting to the accounting manager. We did have some discussion at that time that there probably wouldn't be an accounting specialist role, but that wouldn't change until that role was vacated. So if the accounting specialist role was ever vacated, it would be refilled with an accounting manager with the administrative specialist reporting to the accounting manager.
Where does public affairs fit into that? Still under planning manager?
I'll let Dylan.
That's a good question. This was a conversation that the personnel committee had and didn't want to necessarily put it as the planning and public affairs manager out in the future without knowing who's staff. They didn't want to say that we had to have both planning and public affairs skills. That's kind of a unique thing. So yeah, it's not on there. I would say we could either put that on there or we can reevaluate at the time we get to this point, and maybe that's something we either. That's something we
Maybe something that reports up to the planning manager.
Sure, yeah, I think it would be probably, if we determine we need that position still, we need to be on there somewhere. Hard to predict what's going to be in the future.
Personnel committee members, any thoughts you'd like to share?
And follow the incident command piece that a lot of people respond to. Really, your public information officer reports directly to the person in charge. Well, they take that role. You want that face out there when we're trying to introduce something or discussing something in public. So it's much better to be that lead person in the organization, or if there's so much work to be done, you hire an individual that's doing that work.
So salary schedule that we have proposed for you is on the right side of the screen. The old schedule, or the current schedule, I guess I should say, is on the left side. So you can see much more compressed, 8 noted positions there, and then the updated ranges. A big part of the report is the science behind how the salary ranges are developed. So we get all of the math in the human capital report, and the percentiles of what things are based on. What I will tell you we did in order to be competitive is we used the 50th percentile map to establish the minimum and the 75th percentile map to establish the maximum. So we use the best of both ranges, and that is comparatively what most of the peers were doing as well. There was only one national peer that we were not aligned with, and those salaries were much higher.
And I'm sorry, I didn't read the details. Did you pull from other MPOs as well as other cities with planners, or where did you pull that from?
Governmental entities, nonprofit, nationally, and then Des Moines for-profit, and then MPO peers, Nebraska, Kansas, Ohio, and Orlando use those peers. And then we also, for the planning positions, we had information from the Department of Transportation in Dartmouth. Comments from the personnel committee on salary schedule? I don't want to go too
We're
fast.
happy to answer any questions, but that's the data to go off of. I think we've consolidated a lot from the left side of the screen to the right side of the screen. It's very clear. That's where that portion of it was missing.
Right. And it kind of aligns with the fixing it.
So is our job today to approve this or recommend it? So is there like a net fiscal impact?
No, there's no net fiscal impact. Most of the job descriptions and everything are pretty, as far as the salaries, we're still in line with everything. Eliminating positions, we're consolidating the amount of potential job titles.
So based off those new ranges, you're gonna have challenges with existing personnel and how they fit into those ranges.
We will have some personnel that are outside of the new ranges, and what we discussed and talked with the personnel committee about this, they're kind of grandfathered into what the old ones were, so they would still be cost of living, just wouldn't get additional perform, because there's no room to grow, they're at their cap.
So, but that potentially then could impact their ability for future pay raises, then if they're limited to just COLA, that.
Potentially, and I think there's a little bit of flexibility built into that too, what the human capital is proposing is that we have the formula that we're following, and I think that will be a next step is looking at that, which we borrowed from Scheme 5 to how do we look at the performance evaluation, what is it, subtlety kind of assessment step will be.
And remind everybody how many employees, current employees, kind of fit what Ted's talking about.
We would be the two administrators. For the two sections.
Yeah.
It's impressive work all the daddy looked at. Next.
I have a question. So when we were considering the other organizations to use as exemplar organizations, what were the reporting relationships like? And how does that compare to what's suggested here? Number of direct reports.
I have that data that I can share with you. I don't have it off the top of my head.
Yeah, I was just curious. I mean, maybe this is the best way of configuring this. It seems a little bit light as far as reporting relationships go to me, except for the planning manager. That one looks pretty heavy, but I think the other positions who are in people leader roles are relegated to 2 to 3 direct reports is what it looked like.
I don't think I have it right here with me, Doug, but I can take a look at it. Each of the organizations are structured a little bit differently. Orlando was the closest to the Des Moines MPO because they are pure MPO. The other organizations, the MPOs sit within them. So they have a planning manager with folks underneath them. But in most of the cases, I think the key thing that I'll lean back into is talking about the right hand for operations and the left hand for finance. So even though that may seem lean, even within the planning organizations, they still had someone who was focused on planning and someone who was focused on the finance pieces. But let me go back and get the numbers for sure for you. I will do that. Was Des Moines the smallest organization with 10? Yes.
And I would say with a small organization like we are with, we're 10, now we're 7 or 8, there's only so many direct reports you can put in there and people underneath. Just try to not put everything underneath the director role. We try to split it out a little bit. That's what you're seeing.
And actually, if there's one thing that I can draw your attention to, creating the balance was really interesting. And this is on page 5 of the human capital plan. I know not everybody can see this exactly right now, but I do have the org charts in the human capital plan of what the organization looked like in January of 2023 compared to April of 2024. And the interesting thing is when you look at everybody in the organization reporting to the executive director, that gets complicated as well. So try to create a little bit of balance. Great questions though. Thank you.
Chair, I move it.
All right.
Second.
Point of order, a committee recommendation, does need to be moved or second? Robert's rule. But need to be moved in that section. Well, there's a committee of, I don't know how many people. I mean, you can.
Well, I think we brought it to the full policy committee to make sure everybody's okay with it, make sure everybody votes.
Right, sort of like,
That's all right.
belts and suspenders, but it's true.
It's true. We're trying to be more inclusive.
I want to make sure. Our small committee wanted to make sure that this big committee is okay. And that's kind of been the pushback from the exec to policy and from other committees. So we want to make sure whatever 5 people recommend is what everybody's okay with. So not everyone feels like they're being left out and there's only a few people making the decisions on this board.
Although I was part of the committee,
And so you should just accept.
I put that on my post. Us Des Moines members.
So I might be a little confused. What actually is the motion? Is the motion to support the policy or the personnel committee's results, or is the motion in regard to a resolution uh, of action of some sort for the policy committee to take?
It would be to approve the human capital plan, which would then trigger updating the job description, salary schedule.
Yeah, so that would be action for the policy committee to take. So I mean, I guess unless I'm thinking through this wrong, I think a motion is appropriate.
Yeah, I think we'll just go with the motion. I think Member Voss or this Robert Rules of Order, make everyone feel better about this, make sure it's legal. It's been moved and seconded, so all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Opposed, same sign. All right, motion is approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Cass. Moving on to, report and vote and water trail public hearing date in, oh wait, I crossed. Report and vote on transportation capital improvement program.
Hello, everyone. So I'm going to start with a TCIP is a subset of a municipality's capital improvement program, and that focuses on the transportation-related projects and investments that are required to maintain and improve the transportation network within the Des Moines Metro for 4 to 5 years. Having a regional TCIP is important as it ensures coordination in both transportation planning and funding. It also helps prioritize projects that address current and future transportation needs within the metro. And it's a great tool for the public to see where their community is headed. And by encouraging community involvement, we ensure that these projects reflect the public's needs. This presentation also has been revised to incorporate the feedback that was received from the August technical committee meeting. The following graph illustrates the classification of projects within the TCIP. Most projects, 194, are focused on roads and parking modifications or additions, highlighting the Metro's commitment to improving local infrastructure. Next slide, Gunnar. Thank you. This chart here outlines funding sources that the region used. So the majority of funding sources were the general obligation bonds. The second most was the tax increment funding, and federal and state funds were also an essential contribution from higher levels of government. And the other sources was another higher one that includes sewer fund, water fund, and contributions from other municipalities. This chart illustrates the annual spending in the Des Moines Metro. So this provides a clear overview of financial distribution over the years. We can see that fiscal year 25, most of the money is coming in, and it dips down in fiscal year 2028, going into the unprogrammed years past fiscal year 2029. This updated table on funding allocation shows the regional breakdown by jurisdiction, and it reflects the percentage of allocated funds to each area. The total funding allocated for the transportation-related projects from fiscal year 2025 through fiscal year 2028, and also including the unprogrammed funds, is $1,288 million. Our next steps is the MPO staff recommends voting to receive and file the updated TCIP. And with that, I thank you guys for your time and attention, and we welcome any feedback or questions that you have. Thank you.
Any questions for Josh?
Can you go back one slide? So is Urbandale, is that included, is that the file? Is that what it's?
So one point of clarification is that that is studying within those jurisdictions, not necessarily by those jurisdictions. So you're seeing DOT money there.
Okay.
Yeah, with Urbandale there, I believe the state is contributing 82 million to the interchange project. That's why that number is so high, but that's the funding that's within the jurisdiction.
And I assume that's the same thing with Waukee also.
Yes.
That's the work on I-80.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Got a new nickname for you, Joe, 25%.
What name?
My new nickname for you, 25%.
25%. Yeah.
All right, other questions for?
I don't think that's a lot of DOT funds.
Any questions, other questions for Josh?
It's the map that we're looking at here. You aren't here, so this map can see this,
The interactive map.
the interactive map.
Right.
Yes.
So, does that go into those percentages and everything?
Yes, so that the interactive map is all the projects that were included in the TCIP just on the map, and then if you click on like either the line segments or the pinpoints, it'll show the funding breakdown, what sources that were contributed to the project, and a project description.
I'll move to receive file.
Second. Been seconded. Got other questions?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, so I look at a number of projects in, I guess, my jurisdiction, and for instance, there's 73rd Street, it says jurisdiction, West Des Moines, bridges, $2.9 million. Mill Civic Parkway. 73rd Street is labeled West Des Moines, $800,000. The 68th Street project is labeled West Des Moines, 91st Street to Grand Prairie Parkway, $5 million.
But yeah, although it's been moved and seconded, why don't we clean that up? And we'll place,
Those could be checked for accuracy.
maybe we can place this on the table.
Couple of fields are incorrect, but the total is correct, right?
I think the money looks right, some of it looks right, but not all.
Okay, we can double check all of that.
Yeah, I'd be
Might just
glad
be
to go back over that and double check that.
Yeah, so I think, Joe, you kind of made the motion, right? Or
I moved it, Dean seconded it, just receive the file. But I'd also like to have it checked with my motion and make sure to verify all the numbers still.
Yeah, we'll do that.
And then send out to everybody the verified numbers.
Sure, we can do that.
That'll be part of my motion.
And I'll second that.
all right, so they're gonna verify the numbers for accuracy. We're going to approve it. Pending staff will go through and double check it. So we'll move it on tonight.
And send it out to staff. Or send it out to the policy members.
And I'll note too, this isn't a federally required document. This is just something we put together to basically place all your CIPs, puts them in one spot, mainly for the public, so they don't have to go in 20 different things. We're trying to figure out what's going on, as well as the coordination issues Josh talked about. So yeah, we'll get that cleaned up. We have to delay. It's not an issue or anything.
Thank you.
All right, so then moving seconded with the clarification on that. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is approved. Up next, we have a report and vote on the water trails public hearing date. Back.
Thank you. So this item for you is to set a public hearing date for the uplands portion of the project. This is the area adjacent to the Scott Avenue in water portion. We've got Mark Lansday here to talk a little bit more about the public hearing date. We're looking to set that on October 17th. We have done this for the other phases as well, so this is the third public hearing date we will set in. But I will turn it over to Mark to talk about the public hearing date and give us an update on the project overall.
Thanks, Zach. My slide. So what we want to do today is provide a very brief overview of the Iowa Confluence Water Trails project. And start off with, there's two sites, the site at Scott Avenue and the site at Harriet. This is a graphic of the site at Scott Avenue. And so what, so to date, what has been constructed is this part of the river, and they actually just finished the access way up to here today. And so what we expect is by next week, the entire trail alignment through here will be repaved, and that will be open by October 7th, or October 8th. It'll be done by the 7th, be opened on the 8th. Then they'll be starting working on the dam in this area along here with the fish passage, as well as some other improvements for the wreck opening in the dam, and then move on in subsequent phases on the south part of So this is a picture of what it looks like today or as of earlier this week. You can see this is the area that I was talking about where they were finished up and they were moving up the access way. That is nearly complete now. There's a zoom in of what that looks like. And if we remember, this is going to get to the point for the change order. This is what it looked like almost all summer, and that's the reason that we need the change order. So what the change order says is change order number 3. It changes the date that they had to finish that north side that they're finishing up now to October 7th. Previously it was June 21st. That's the 3 months of time it was underwater. And then the south bank, because of those 3 months, shifts the end of the project as well. So originally it was scheduled for August 31st, 2025. Now it's November 30th of 2025. So that's the in-water part. So remember, there's 2 phases, the in-river, and we also have the uplands. So the uplands is everything that's not in the river. It's going up the slope, everything you see in color and there along this side and then going up the slope. What that schedule is today as part of this previously in the agenda, the policy committee set the public hearing date. That was today. The bid letting is scheduled for the 14th of October through the Iowa DOT, and then your next meeting on October 17th, you would hopefully will get good bid, award the contract on that date, and then the late start for that work would be January 27th of next year. 125-day working day contract. That puts us into about, I would say, August 1st of 2026 would be the kind of the time when the whole project would be complete. I did want to note stage 3 is important because stage 3 is the time when I mentioned the in-water is going to be done November 30th of next year. Well, the upland contractor is going to be working at the same time, so we need to give them room. So this October 21st or December 1st date of 2025 is the key date because that's when all the in-rough river's done and the uplands contractor has full ability for the entire site. Again, start working so they can get done by hopefully in July of 2026.
Is there any penalty if they don't complete it in 125 days? The out of water stuff?
There is a liquidated damage, and I can't remember the exact amount. There is a liquidated damage per day, per working day after that.
Even if it rains and the river goes up and they can't.
Well, that's good. That's an excellent point. So when I say July or August 1st of 2026, if we have rain like we did this year or next year, say, then the clock would stop per the specifications for the in-water. The clock would stop again, and we'd be coming back for a similar change order, depending on how long it was underwater.
What about out the inlets?
It would be the same language for the work along the shore. So it depends how high the water is.
Okay.
The good thing is there's more work to do if the water's up like it was this year. They'll be able to have things to do. Obviously, this contractor didn't have much. They were basically at a standstill. But the uplands contractor would theoretically have things to do. But that would be a discussion item if they were all out of other things to do and everything else was underwater.
Depends on how high the river gets.
Yeah.
The river's covered that whole inlet before.
Yeah, so, like the years before and not like this.
Right.
Harriet is the other project, and that one is actually going very well as well. Again, this April, pretty much all the work is done on kind of the dry side of the levee. They're working on the river side. Again, they were delayed, but that was working day contracts. So we stopped working days. They actually poured the kayak launch on that side. So that is progressing nicely. They expect to be fully completed with this project. I would guess in mid-November is when they would be done with pretty much most of the work. There is some lighting and some benches and those kind of things. They'll come back in the spring to install those just for making sure everything goes well over the winter, put all that equipment in for next spring, and then final seeding. That's my update. Trying to be brief, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Nothing with Prospect then yet, right?
Prospect is we just have, summer of 2027 it has to get through the agreement, although, Icon is working for both Prospect and Birdland. Both of those are, have that same schedule that they have to start by. Both of those are moving along very nicely relative to funding, and they're both very close. In fact, Birdland possibly could start even sooner than that, depending on getting final funding. So that's the hope. Yes, sir.
So you mentioned the kayak input. Kayaks come out of the water.
I should have said how. Well, you could get in, I guess. This is where you would come out.
Okay.
Sorry for that.
Any other questions for Mark? Thank you, Mark.
All right, thanks, everybody.
All right, this report and vote.
Move approval. Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion on this? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Approved. Up next, we have a report on mobilizing tomorrow draft chapter. Zach.
Thank you. So staff has been working to finalize the draft content for the long-range transportation plan. We developed a website. All that draft content is currently posted on the website. That's what we've been spending the last couple of weeks getting that up there. And that has allowed us to then put it out for public comment. So we set the public comment clock on September 23rd. Per our public participation plan, we have to have a 30-day public comment period for the long-range plan. So that'll go out to October 23rd of next month. We do also have a public open house scheduled for here at the MPO office on October 9th from 4 to 6 p.m. For the public to come in and provide any comments they have on the draft. So just as a reminder, again, the approach to this update was more of a minimal update to the plan's content. Some of the highlights, kind of what we have updated on the plan. We've reformatted a little bit, looked at the different design layout of the plan, as well as cleaning up some of the language, trying to be a little more concise in some of the sections. Also looked at reorganizing some of the content. On the screen there, you can see there's a few different areas we really looked at for reorganization. We tried to reorganize stuff around transportation mode. Before, it was just broken into chapters based on goals and performance measures. This time we're looking at the goals and performance measures for the specific transportation mode of each chapter. And I'll kind of go over those chapters here in a minute. And then we kind of brought some information out of our appendix. We had an appendix on the state of systems, which is basically the existing conditions. We brought that information up into those chapters as well, rather than having it buried in the appendix. Additionally, we've updated all the data we needed to. So, for example, the growth scenario, we updated those numbers, the fiscal analysis, and then the performance measures and such. And all those things were brought to this committee earlier this year or late last year. So as I mentioned, just a brief overview of the chapters. We have 4 main chapters in the plan. Chapter 1 is an introduction. This just kind of goes over the history of transportation planning in the metro, talks about the vision, mission, and goals of the LRTP, as well as talking about other plans, either statewide plans or other regional plans that this plan interacts with. And then it gives an overview of all the various different content that's in the LRTP. Chapter 2 is the one that focuses on roads and bridges. So as I mentioned, we're looking at both. So this chapter looks at roads and bridges, looks at current conditions, the performance measures for roads and bridges, goes into fiscal analysis, and then a project list for the roads and bridges. Chapter 3 and 4 are for the bicycle and transit, and then freight and aviation. Again, these are set up in the same format where it looks at existing conditions of those systems, talks about the measures and targets that relate to them, looks at fiscal capacity, and then has a list of projects for each one of those as well. In addition to that, we have a section where we have all our index documents in the back as well. These are a list of them there. I won't go over every single one of them, but basically this is all the background information. So we're going to really dig into how we did our fiscal analysis. All that information is included in that fiscal analysis methodology.
Same with the growth scenario, all the background data and information is in there. So anybody wants to really dig into it, go to the appendix section, look at those. So all that content is currently up on the website for the public to view. As far as the schedule goes, as I mentioned, we posted this information here in September. We opened up that public comment period on September 23rd. So we'll collect comment over the next few weeks, and as our committee meetings come up in October, we'll present any comments that we've received. At the policy committee on the 17th, we'll go over any of the comments received, work on making the edits to the document based on the feedback and comments we get in late October and early November, and then be able to bring that final plan back to you for approval at the November 21st policy meeting. That's what I have. Happy taking questions you have. I wanted to let you know that all that content is up in the public. Questions, Zach? Thank you, Zach. Thank you. We have the director's reports.
Thank you. I'll try to be brief to get us out of here as quick as possible. So I'd like to do kind of break down the 3 different areas focusing on here. So when we talk about board, Cass was obviously here to talk about the governance assessment. So we'll continue to work on the implementation of that and the next steps of action. Also related to the work, next week we'll have our technical committee meeting. So far, a lot of the work's been focused with the executive policy committee. We'll inform the technical committee of what we've been working on too, especially as it comes to working on committees and getting them more involved in work too. So that'll be one of our first implementations of that, is really starting to form committees around the remaining projects we have identified for the rest of this. In terms of staff, again, we'll start implementing the new salary schedule and that sort of thing that Cass spoke about earlier. I also want to put on your radar, Zach just spoke, we're under contract with Zach at the end of the calendar year. And as we've spoke with the personnel committee and what was identified here on the org chart is to continue that position. That'll be something we need to discuss a little further. So we'll probably start taking that for the personnel committee to look at that and then bring back a recommendation to this group. And then finally, a couple of things related to more strategic direction or projects that you probably saw in the news. The Southwest Good Semester received a pretty $69 million almost. There was some engagement that went on earlier this summer that the MPO was involved with, the city of Moines and with District 1. And we had a meeting yesterday with District 1, and everyone was kind of obviously very happy that that happened. We're not entirely sure what all springs were pulled or who made the right contacts, but congratulations to everybody involved with that to get that funding. Zach spoke about the engagement for the long-range transportation plan. We also have a second round of engagement upcoming for the comprehensive safety action plan. That will be put live here in the next couple of days and have several weeks. So we're seeking additional funding on that. The goal is to have that plan back before the board for approval in January. So keep an eye out for that. I alluded to mention, met with District 1 yesterday about the Southwest Connector, but also, the Southwest Connector, but also just everything else that both organizations have going on. And that's something that Shelby and I have been working to institute here over the last several months. I think that's very cool. Continue to do that and make sure we have good relationships with the DOT. And then speaking of the DOT, we also have a meeting with Director Marlowe coming up in October where we'll give an update on a handful of things and you can see the DOT support on some projects we're working on. Finally, I want to mention a potential, it's a very specific idea we had, but also just kind of get the general sense of doing something like this. As we work through the Comprehensive Safety Action Plan, we've spoken about needing to set targets for the organization and for the region of reducing fatalities and serious injuries by a certain date. Hoboken, New Jersey is one that actually has eliminated fatalities over the last 6 or 7 years without a fatality. And so one idea we have is we could have someone from Hoboken speak to this group and speak to elected officials and what they were able to do and how that relates. And we wanted to gauge your feedback. Is that something you would find valuable? And would things like that, maybe whether or not we do this one, would bringing in speakers like that to speak with all of you and kind of things related to the MPO's work, is that something you would appreciate, would you like to do that, participate in that? If so, we will give some more thought to that and how we can put together sort of maybe making that a little more routine in the work.
When you say bringing in, is that physically bring in or a Zoom or a team meeting?
It could be either one. kind of depending on what availability is, what the budget is. We do set aside what, like 15,000, 5,000, somewhere there, in our budget for speakers. We haven't used that a lot in the last couple of years.
If I may, we kind of envision this as a reincarnation of the Tomorrow Fun speaker series, of being more focused on speakers who are in shoes like yours. So that you can talk to, say, the mayor of Logan, about how did you guys do it? How did you message it? What was your politics like, et cetera? Try to make it very relevant to you. So that's the idea where it's coming from. To your question about virtual versus in person, I would strongly favor it. That's interactions through the past from the speaker series with the same conversations that happened now. The slideshow that occurred.
And we would, discuss format of how that would work, both in person, but also as a that's a standalone meeting would be attached to this being something standalone. So these ones don't go too long, but we can come back to that. I would say on that specific item, one of the reasons we were looking at them is initially we were thinking that not only the MPO, but also all the member governments individually would have to adopt those targets. We just spoke with a couple of city managers in the room. We spoke about this at the Metro managers meeting here a month or so ago. We have since learned that's not. As long as the MPO has adopted something, all the cities can work with what the MPO has adopted if they want to do the implementation or applying to it. That one's not quite as critical anymore, though we can still do it. But I just want to get your idea or thoughts on it.
I would say the helpful. If you guys think if you heard them speak or something and you have the conversation.
It is budgeted, so I mean, it's not a non-budgeted item, so it would add value to our understanding of that. Find the proper format and time and setting. We're interested in that. Research that.
Stay tuned, we'll provide more information.
Yeah, hearing no major objections. We'll just kind of keep moving forward. It's like what was the cat? It's like the middle of the road. What was neutral? The neutral.
We can form a committee to look at all the speaker potential.
All right. Other items.
I think Zach's got maybe one item.
You're done.
Yeah, I'm done.
All right, moving on to other items, mentioned the committee with Zach.
Just one quick update for you on the carbon reduction program. Those applications did go out on the 29th of August. The deadline to get those in is tomorrow. As of this afternoon, we had around 5 applications that have been submitted. On October 9th, the applicants will be meeting with the funding subcommittee. So the funding subcommittee can hear presentations on those projects, and then we'll bring their recommendation, the funding subcommittee's recommendation, back to you November 4th. I've taken questions. Yeah.
Right. Doesn't appear to be any. Thank you, Zach. Is there any items of interest in the committee members? Again, our next meeting is October 17th at 4 p.m. Thank you everyone for your time today. We are adjourned.